Hello, I'm back with Blue Review. It's Henry. Um, so, even though it's the daytime, as you can tell from the intense sunlight here, I don't like the John Alcott like natural lighting deal. Um, I am going to talk about things that are usually done at night. Uh, Today being the 30th, sometimes people do them then. Sometimes people go ahead and do them on the 30th night of the 31st, going into the 1st. Some people celebrate multiple nights. So we're doing the 13 days of Halloween and my 13 days of Halloween. And in this case, we are on October 30th, 2020, and the sun is now hitting its zenith, which means that I'm on number 11, day 11. So, yes, I'm excited too. I'm going to cover two films today under the theme of what I was alluding to a minute ago called Halloween Parties. And basically, this is just two films that have Halloween parties either as the theme or as uh, a key element. So, start with the one with the ladder that has it as a key element. It's not the actual theme of the film. It's called Ms. 45, sometimes known as Angel of Vengeance. And here is our main character at the Halloween party dressed as a pistol packing nun. So this character is named Thana, meaning death. And she is death, the male species, but not unjustified, I must say. Being a male, I'm not at all offended, nor do I feel Thana is a horrid misandrist. So, what's the deal with Ms. 45? Okay, so it's the second non-pornographic feature by Abel Ferrara after his pretty intense The Driller Killer, in which he himself played the titular Driller Killer. And that movie was ostensibly an exploitation horror film, a very low budget, but it had some other themes and this kind of vibe of degradation in the underbelly of New York that went on to become a staple of quite a few of his later, more well budgeted, more well known films. Ms. 45 is kind of like a bridge film to that. You see that vibe in full effect, but it's a bit classier, a bit better shot than Driller Killer, a bit more, professional. Still an exploitation film, still a horror film in the rape revenge subgenre. Has more bizarre and quirky humor and parodies, as in Driller Killer, various ridiculous characters that were kind of archetypes more than really developed characters. Um, that's not true of our lead character, though. Dana is. It's a staggering performance by Zoe Lund because character is mute. She's not deaf, but she is mute, so she cannot speak. So already your allegory is kicking in here of women not being heard or believed, and that's key because within the first 10, 12 minutes of our film, this mute seamstress that seems very benevolent to everyone around her, albeit rather withdrawn, is raped twice in one day, say in the course of maybe an hour, by two different men. The first man, played by Abel Ferrara himself, under his nom de guerre, Jimmy Lane, he escapes unscathed for his wrongdoing. Second unnamed character, I guess we'd call him Rapist Number Two, but he's not played by Roger Howarth. He is dispatched by young Thana with a, an iron, and yeah, the kind you iron with. So, that sharp metal point, I guess, plunges into his skull after she's already knocked him a bit askew right on as he's on the verge of an undeserved orgasm. So, um, and then from there, wow, he has a 45 caliber pistol. And I'm going to assume he brought some bullets with him in one of his pockets, because she adopts this pistol as her own weapon of choice, hence the title Ms. 45. Ms. being, of course, MS. Dot, which was a popular magazine and female liberation, feminist uh, appellation or determiner used to describe women, not Mrs. or Miss, but Ms. So she's Ms. 45. So she's got the MS period 45. So man, so how does she become Ms. 45? Well, after the rapes and after she dutifully hacks up rapist number two in her bathtub and gradually disposes of his bodies in the typical trash bags around the neighborhood fashion. She uses the pistol to stop a man who seems to be chasing her down. She assumes, I guess, to assault her. It's really a misunderstanding. He's not the greatest character. He's kind of a lummox, but he wasn't really going to harm her, but she doesn't know that. So that 45 comes into play, and boom, right in this guy's skull. That's it for him. So now as the second person she's killed, man, because she you know basically will only kill males, because from this point on, I don't think, pardon the pun, I'm not being funny, but because of her mute status, but she's not articulating this philosophy in a way that is blatant to us, or maybe coherent upon first viewing of this film, but she is picking up this as her raison d'etre, her more or less her reason to be. It's an avocation. She's still a seamstress by day, but by night she begins making herself up to look desirable, which she really didn't do before. And men, of course, being the brutes they are, you know, come to attack her, uh, whether to rob, beat, and or rape her. And basically, she uses this opportunity to dispatch them with that aforementioned 45. One thing I want to say, which is important, is that I said she kills only males. Pretty much all the male characters in this movie, not just the rapists and the lugs on the street, but like her boss, who is this extremely persnickety gay man. He's not really a stereotype, but he's a bit annoying. He's a bit touchy feely, to where he might not be gay exactly, and she doesn't like him touching her, and I don't blame her. Um, he's an annoying presence, so she hates him. And the neighbor's dog is a boy, a male, and it barks all the time and disturbs her, and she decides she's going to kill it too. Um, that goes in an interesting fashion, how that plays out. So anyway, the after her kind of vigilante spree, where she asserts herself on the world with uh, revenge on the male species, um, she's invited to a Halloween party, and this is going to be her piece de resistance of vigilantism. She dresses as a nun and taps into Ferrara's Catholic obsessions, which are run through most of his films. And she's kind of a sexy nun. She's got, very nice makeup, and she does have bullets, more bullets. Like I said, I assume the guy brought an extra clip with him, the guy that she slammed with the iron. Um, well, she blesses the bullets, like kisses them, like blesses them before she loads the gun. And this is like are going to be, I guess, her last stand, because I think people are starting to suspect something's up with her, and she kind of, being a fairly uh, intelligent young woman, probably suspects they're suspecting her. So why not go out with a literal bang as Ms. 45, the pistol packing nun, on Halloween night, a Halloween costume party? So, and so she does. But there is a twist, and it's a awesome twist. I don't want to give it away, but it essentially involves her ability to speak or not to speak, and um, a wrinkle in her mission of retribution against men. So I'm not going to tell you whether the dog comes out alive or not. You're just going to have to deal with that unbearable suspense and watch this yourself. So anyway, I love this movie. Of course, yes, it's one of my favorites. Um, I rented it years ago. I had heard about it. I believe it was covered in Danny Peary's Cult Movies, one of those three books. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I did read about it in a really good film book around very early 90s. And nobody I knew had really actually seen the movie. Nobody knew back then. So I eventually rented it and immediately took to it. I loved the dual identity thing. I loved the irony of her name, the mute aspect, the feminist aspect, the nun with a gun aspect. Well, that's incredible. It's all good. It's done so well, and it is very much an exemplar of this often derided and sometimes rightfully so subgenre of the rape revenge film within the larger horror genre. So, of course, I recommend it. I had a videotape of it for a while. Um, I had a DVD, which was a bootleg. It was getting hard to get the DVD, and then Draft House Films, affiliated with the Alamo Draft House in Texas, announced that they had their own label to make Blu-rays, and that they were going to be putting this on Blu-ray. And so, since I had not had an official nice digital copy, I went ahead and made the upgrade. At that time, I wasn't buying very many Blu-rays yet. I was buying few that were things that were very hard to find or impossible to find on DVD, and I was no longer doing VHS. So I went ahead and ponied up for the Ms. 45. Not a big expenditure. I inherited a little money from my dad during that period, so I was collecting a good bit of stuff, but Blu-ray still seemed expensive and daunting, price-wise, to collect full-time, and they are. They went down in price across the board, thanks to Amazon, and then this guy Lex Luthor, who owns Amazon, he makes record sales because of COVID, and next thing you know, instead of the prices going even further down, they go up on entertainment stuff. So essentials he's good on, but essentials, quote unquote. He knows all these people are stuck at home, quarantined. They want to watch some Blu-rays, and he no longer wants you to buy a really cool Blu-ray for $10, $12. He wants you to buy it for $20 or $30 or more. And it's not cool, Jeff. Sorry, dude. It's just not fucking cool. But anyway, I tend to get lucky with these things because of being on eBay and just knowing people and et cetera, et cetera. I try to kind of work the system and get some good deals here and there. So, but back in the day, I did pay full price for this, but it wasn't that much. I think it was probably 25. I ordered it through the mail. Um, I think it had gone down to like 16, $17, but now it's probably 30 on Amazon. So that one, the Halloween party, is a great motif. Great way to end our film. And I'm actually I have the film on as I'm talking about it, and there's just some shots where whenever a guy like inappropriately or even just quote unquote innocently lays a hand on Thana after she's had her horrid experiences, her eyes get big and she just gives them these looks that are hilarious, like what the fuck. And of course she doesn't say anything because she can't. um, this next film is all about a Halloween party, essentially. It's the ultimate Halloween party. It's the Mad Monster Party. So this one came out, I believe, 1966, 1967. What a great year that was, from what I understand. Um, basically, Baron von Frankenstein, voiced by Boris Karloff, assembles all the monsters, and he wants to announce that he's retiring and he's naming a successor, an unlikely one, his nephew, Felix Flanken, who is kind of a milk toast, you know, pharmacist. But, he's his only surviving relative, being his nephew, son of Baron Frankenstein's sister, who he says disappointed him by becoming the white sheep of the family. Um, this one is just riddled with all kinds of puns of that nature. Um, it's a Rankin Bass animated. I forgot what they call the Super Marionation or something, or maybe that's the Thunderbirds or Go people, but it's similar to that. It's like, but it's much better puppetry and better animation, stop motion animation. They did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They did, The Year Without Santa Claus. Quite a bunch. So look at these cool characters. These characters were designed mostly by Jack Davis of EC Comics fame. Um, for us, those of us too young to have been around for the first wave of EC Comics, we grew up on Jack Davis's art on the cover magazines like Mad and Cracked, and of course cereal boxes and various other advertising stints. He did a lot of TV guide covers, um, but that caricaturish art, as great as it was really nothing compared to his EC work, which was highly detailed and just some stunning line work that's like a lot of the EC artists has rarely been equaled. That level of craft being churned out month after month. I mean, it kind of boggles the mind a bit. And of course, EC has had a tremendous influence on everything since, from horror comic books to Twilight Zone to pop culture. It's just, it's ubiquitous, and in my mind, still the greatest single unified line of comic books ever published, especially in context of when it was published and the frequency that the books were published and the quality of the craftsmanship in those books consistently over a 3 or 4 year period. So, Marvel fans can throw things at me now. Um, and I like Marvel too. I like Marvel. I don't like Marvel's current comic books. But anyway, let me get off my soapbox here. Jack Davis designed these characters. Frank Frazetta did the poster. He also began at EC and, of course, went on to do incredible fantasy paintings with likes of John Carter of Mars, of Conan the Barbarian, and Tarzan. Um, it's got quite a nice pedigree. Harvey Kurtzman, who created Mad, the comic book, and Mad magazine. It's a spin-off after EC Comics folded. Kurtzman writes the bulk of this thing, along with a guy named Lynn Kabobkin. I don't know who he is, but also Forrest J. Ackerman helped write it as well. the Uber fan who did Famous Monsters of Filmland for many years, and supposedly had the greatest collection of sci-fi and horror memorabilia ever. I'm not saying he didn't. I have never been exposed to it personally, but photographs I've seen and people I've talked to who've met him say that yes, his collection was amazing. I believe he was starting to sell it off before he passed. Um, I can empathize with that. Mine is not nearly as extensive as his, but I'm selling my somewhat large uh, collectibles collection, even as we speak on eBay bit by bit. So what's the deal with Mad Monster Party, other than all this trivia? Well, Boris is great. Phyllis Diller does the voice of the Bride of Frankenstein, so that's a bit of odd casting, but it's funny. Um, who are the other monsters? Count Dracula, the Frankenstein monster. Where do we start? Um, the werewolf, the mummy, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Invisible Man, a zombie called Yetch, and other zombies, attendant zombies of his, a band composed of, I think they're called Little Fibia and the Tibias, or Little Tibia and the Fibias, but they're all skeletons, and the drummer plays bones instead of drumsticks, and they do a great song called "The Mummy" about the mummy who dances for a bit. You just have to watch it. Okay, there's also an amphibious creature who, the creature he's not. He's a surrogate for the creature from the Black Lagoon. Basically, the ones that were public domain, they used their names, like Dracula, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein. The ones that weren't, they just, portrayed them as the creatures they were, like the werewolf and um, that guy I just mentioned. Well, the mummy also, but the creature, the aquatic creature. Um, so wow, what a lineup! And there is a giant monster called It, and It is another disguised popular character, and his name is, okay, he's a king, and he lives on Skull Island. He's really big, and he's a gorilla. So I guess that kind of narrows it down. Um, so this really has everything but the kitchen sink monster wise in it. It's hilarious. There's songs. It's a musical. They're not too irritating. Some of them are a bit, show tuney, but overall they're pretty damn good. And the woman who sings the part of Francesca, her vocals are fantastic. All the songs are clever, funny lyrics, and kind of bouncy. It just kind of moves like along from one scene to another. It is a feature-length movie, and it did play in theaters, so it's a bit different than uh, the Christmas and Easter-oriented ones that they did for television. It's quite a bit more ambitious, and oddly, it kind of fell into semi-obscurity for a number of years compared to all the other Rankin Bass specials. Um, yeah, I got a bootleg in the mid '90s, and that was my first exposure to it. I had talked to one or two people who'd seen it play on television in their market, but it never played here, that's for sure. Um, oh yeah, so Francesca I mentioned. That's the only other major character I didn't mention. She's this kind of sexy redhead Anne Margaret esque puppet, um, and she's Frankenstein's assistant. And her scheme is to eliminate Felix Flanken and become his true heir when he retires. And Count Dracula also wants the same thing. He wants to rule all the monsters. Being Count Dracula, that makes total sense. Um, this is more the Dracula that, I mean, he's whimsical at times, but he's a lot closer to, say, Jack Palance's Dracula or the Tomb of Dracula, comic book Dracula, who was physically based on Jack Palance, than he is, say, Gary Oldman or Frank Langella's romantic portrayals. So I personally prefer this more devious, cruel, conscienceless Count Dracula to the romantic dude. But that's me. So this is great. I wanted to go ahead and knock this video out today because the next video is going to be kind of the big turning point for everything, the 31st, October 31st, Halloween itself. And I'll be covering, the theme will be The Living Dead. So I'm going to be watching 3 movies with Living Dead in the title. Can you guess what they're going to be? Can you guess how they're connected? Because as we all know, Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, they don't have living in the title. There's been a lot of retitled movies with Living Dead in the title that have nothing to do with zombies proper or exactly, not like Romero zombies. This is the George Romero mythology we're talking about. So, 3 Living Dead films. I'm really excited, and I want to talk about how they interrelate with each other and maybe the franchise in general, because there is kind of a continuity and a pattern between films and then parallel continuities. But of course, I'm going to talk about the movies themselves. And I will just say real quick that the first one will be the first one, Night of the Living Dead, the super duper deluxe Criterion edition that I own. And then we're going to go from there into two offshoots and onward. So that will be Halloween. I'll probably dress up in some goth-like accoutrement, but as I tend to do on such occasions. And I will see you then. Take care, and I really appreciate you watching these and putting up with these long-winded dissertations. They're a lot of fun for me to make. Hopefully you get something out of them. I appreciate it. Take care.